Dan, the culinary libertarian here. It's getting close to fall. Doesn't really feel like it, but it is. And, um, well, fall is lots of things, including baking. And one of the things we bought is a jar of these, which you'll probably end up getting yourself from Trader Joe's or someplace else. They're unsweetened tart cherries. It sounds kind of funny to say. They're just in juice of some kind, and I'm going to try and invent a mixed drink with the cherry juice and maybe some lemon simple syrup and possibly vodka, but that's 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 for later. And now we're going to make this cake. So I'm making it's kind of like a pound cake, but not exactly. So it's similar in composition as far as ingredients go. Same amount of weight of sugar and butter, and say 2, 4, 6 ounces is about the same grams as eggs. A little bit more flour to account for some of the extra liquid coming out of the cherries, even though I've drained them. And that's going to be baked into a springform pan. So I have lightly buttered the inside. The last thing anyone wants to have happen is bake a cake and then not get the cake out. So a little insurance of some butter inside, because with the butter it's baking, why not? Just to make sure we get that out. And also, my little addition is going to be a streusel topping, because I like the little crumbly bits, kind of like coffee cake, on top of what's going to end up being probably a fairly thin cake. And then powdered sugar on top, and the cherries to be inside, and it should be all yummy. So I'm going to I'm going to mix this. It gets loud and messy, and who needs all that stuff? But I'll show the batter as it's mixed, because it does have a little bit of a twist to it, and it calls for just as much milk as needed. Well, how much is that? Well, I don't know. We're going to find out, because it'll be different every day. So anyway, we're going to go with that, and I'm going to start mixing, and we'll take a look and see how this goes, and then we'll have cake. I did mention that this is similar to a pound cake, and that remains to be mostly the case. This is going to have the addition of a leavening, some baking powder, and that's because it's got to push up all of these cherries. Lots of cherries. So I'm not claiming this is a pound cake. It's only similar to that. So the creaming stage, butter and sugar together, and I've added the salt to this. We're looking to make something that's kind of light. So light and airy is the structural base for this. Now there's the point of diminishing returns. If I mix this for 5 more minutes, will I get 5 more minutes of value into the cake? Probably not, because it's going to have to push up all these cherries, and all this juice and other stuff is going to be there. I don't know that the payoff is there. I'm not going to do that. I'm content with what I have. Now we're going to add the rest of the things. So it's going to be the eggs and the flour and the baking powder. And so here's where the tricky part comes in. Well, in a minute. So following a basic cake procedure, we've creamed the butter and the sugar. We're going to add the eggs one at a time, allowing each egg to incorporate before the next addition. And then half of the flour and a little bit of milk. I have weighed out 2 ounces. I'm going to add half of that, and then the rest of the flour, and see how it looks. I'm looking, this is, we're going to learn. So what I want to have is I want a slightly denser looking cake than, say, your normal birthday cake. And part of that is that's how I want the texture to be in the finished product. A tighter cake batter is going to have a slightly tighter crumb, which is what which is what I want to have. In addition, it's going to have all of this cherry stuff with it. So I think the reduced amount of milk is going to be made up for as far as liquid goes because of the cherries. So we're going to find out. Mostly this is a way to use these things up because I've got them, and a way to experiment a little bit and see what we can do with a new recipe. The other idea to use these with would be to make the regular chocolate tea cake which is phenomenal, and add these into the cake batter at the very end before you put it into whatever the shape would be. Traditionally would be the bun pan, but you could do rounds and stack them. For this, because this one's going to be powdered sugared and streuseled, I would probably go with a bun pan for the cherries, just because it kind of looks nice and makes a nice presentation, and it doesn't need icing. Just, you know, powdered sugar. If you wanted to do chocolate sauce or ice cream or creme anglaise or all three, but you know, no reason not to do that. So let's get back to mixing and we'll see what we end up with. All right, we're done, and I've used about 1 ounce, maybe a little bit more, of the milk to make my batter. Now I'm going to talk about a few things of note about the batter in a minute, and what I'm doing is I'm scraping off the paddle because the batter's done, and so mixed batter doesn't enjoy sitting around doing nothing, waiting for me to stop talking. So I'm multitasking, as it were, so to speak. All right, mostly clean. So the batter is, as I mentioned, I don't know if you can see very well here, it is a little on the stiff side, and that's pretty stiff as far as batter goes. That's pretty stiff, but that's, I think, going to be okay. Now, one of the things that is the case about a cake like this is it can be how you want it. You're saying to yourself, Reed, how do I know how I want it? Good question. So you make it once and say, you know what, self, I would like it to be this way next time. So you add more milk. You don't add as much milk. This is a thing that make one time and decide, you know what, I didn't care for it this way, or it was fine, I'd prefer it better that other way. And then so you adjust it. This isn't like a birthday cake. Well, there's a little less room there for nuance because it's got to hold itself on top of the layers and the icing in the middle. It has to do more stuff than just sit here and look pretty. So this one, now, I will say, this cake as it stands, it's funny, cake stand. You could put almond meal in with this and it would be really, really tasty. Toasted almond meal may be even better. Goes really good with the cherries. The cherry and the almond is a really classic flavor combination. So you could, to have a red or pink looking cake batter, put the cherries in at the very, very end and mix them together, and they're going to color the cake batter, which might be kind of cool. I didn't do that because I'm really interested in seeing what I get the first time. I want to know what the cake itself is going to be like. It looks good. I like the way that it looks. It's got a good texture to it. One of the things to know about, about eggs and butter. So one of the, all butter is not the same. Not all butter is 100% fat. Some of it can be in the low 90% fat. Generally, we're going to be looking at about 80% or so, which means 20% of what's in your butter is not fat. It's liquid of some kind, with the small portion being a little bit of just pure protein. So the liquid isn't a problem. It's how much is in there. Well, we don't really know that. So when you're adding your butter and your sugar together, cherries going on. Ooh, look at that red. Don't know how much, sorry, that was loud. Don't know how much water is in the butter. So we add the sugar. Sugar is hydroscopic. It's going to absorb the water. Ooh, big mess. And then that's fine. So now we add eggs. Eggs are going into our sugar and butter mix, and depending on your egg, generally it's 1/3 is egg yolk, 2/3 is egg white, and 2/3 of this egg white is functionally, that's water. It's protein, but it's also water. Well, that's a whole lot of stuff for that little egg yolk to hold all together. And if it looks a little, well, we would say in the cooking world, we call it broken. Where it doesn't look emulsified and homogeneous, it's got, you can see like little bits of fat in the waters in between. not a problem because we're going to add the flour. In this case, we have extra flour compared to the quantity of sugar or butter. 200 grams of flour, 125 grams of butter. So that extra flour is going to absorb that extra water. Plus we have the extra water from the cherries. Now on goes the streusel topping. So the cherries are a little bit uneven in distribution because the top of the cake was unevenly spread out, and I'm okay with that. We're looking for rustic, homey, sorry, I'm thinking of a TV show, very grandma looking cake, because I'm more worried about tasting good than looking fabulous, although aesthetics is of course important. So this is going to go in the oven. The oven is preheated. Hate that word. The oven is hot at 350 degrees. The recipe reads 40 minutes. That seems a little generous, but we're going to give it a shot, and we're going to take a look in a few minutes. And the prepared product, let's go for a flight, whee, is right there. Be back in a little while. It's done. So 40 minutes was about right. I let it go a little longer, which was a bit of a surprise, but what I'm looking for, is right up here for the cake to pull away. There we go, sit down. For the cake to pull away from the sides of the pan. When that starts to happen, that's the visual clue that your cake is done. And like a steak or anything else, it's going to carry over cookies too, bread too. It's going to continue baking because the baking process includes the cooling down process. One of the things that was interesting, which is not unexpected, is the collection of cherries in one spot is sort of dense. So that's a less well-baked spot than another. But the cake batter rose up very nicely and covered most of the cherries, and the streusel topping looks really yum. So a little bit of powdered sugar on this, and we got a fine cake here. Though this could probably take a creme anglaise or an ice cream, I don't think it really needs it. As for the cherry juice, I tasted it. It's not too sweet, which is a plus. It isn't overwhelmingly powerful in cherry, so a little bit of, say, like a lemon simple syrup for a little bit of back note flavor, a little bit of fizz. Either tonic would be okay because the bitterness would go okay with the slight sweetness, and then some other vehicle. Gin is, if you like gin, I like gin fine, but to here, not too much. Maybe, you know, it'd be as the an amaretto almond, or the I can't say Diaciorno. I'm not an aficionado, what can I tell you? So that would be a good combination. Vodka would be okay because it's pretty mild. Vanilla vodka would be better. But it's worth trying if you are a cocktail kind of person. You can invent some fun things, and a nice Beaujolais Nouveau with that cherry, and this is sacrilege to some, but maybe a little bit steeped and warm like a mulled wine would be good. For you who shun such terrible things with Beaujolais Nouveau, pretend I didn't say that. Pretend I said a $50 Pinot Noir. Have a good afternoon. I'm going to go eat some cake.
Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button just below the video and ring the bell to get notifications when we post more videos. Follow us on Twitter and on Facebook, and download our copy of the free Muffins e-cookbook at culinarylibertarian.com/muffinsbook. Happy baking!